Mr. Harris, I want to shift gears for a moment and talk about when you were shot in July of 2009. Do you know what I'm referring to? Yes, sir. Before we get into the details, I'm going to show you a couple of photographs. I apologize. If I could have the podium again. Mr. Harris, I'm showing you what's already in evidence, Government Exhibit 111. Do you recognize that person? Yes, sir. Who is that? Pig. Pig? Yes, sir. Do you know his real name? Ricky Fountain. How do you know Pig? He from the same area, K-Town. He's a four-corner hustler, and we all, used to see each other, and plus, he got a kid by my sister. Okay, so you kind of grew up with Pig? Yes, sir. And he says he's from the same area as you are? Yes, sir. But you're a gangster disciple? Yes, sir. And what is Pig? A four-corner hustler. Do you know if Pig associates with a clique or a faction of the four-corner hustlers? Yes, sir. Which one? They call themselves Brickyard Fours. Brickyard? Yes, sir. And you said you also know Pig because Pig has a child with your sister? Yes, sir. What's your sister's name? Would you say that at one point you were friends with Pig? Yes, sir. It's fair to say you aren't anymore? No, sir. Do you know if Pig sold drugs? Yes. What types of drugs did Pig sell? Heroin and marijuana. Do you know where Pig sold drugs? He sold drugs in the area of Wilcox and Kildare, Pulaski and Van Buren, Polk and Cicero. Did you ever supply drugs to Pig? No, sir. I'm showing you another exhibit that is already in evidence, Government Exhibit 151. Actually, if I could have one moment. Pardon me, Your Honor, I just wanted to make sure this was already in evidence. It is in evidence, Government Exhibit 151. Thank you, Your Honor. Do you recognize this person, Mr. Harris? Yes, sir. Who's that? Dwayne Hill. And do you know Mr. Hill to go by any nicknames? Yes, sir. What nicknames? Weezy. How do you know Mr. Hill? He was associate of Pig. Do you associate Mr. Hill with a gang? Yes, sir. Which gang? The Black Pea Stones. Did you know Mr. Hill to sell drugs? Yes, sir. What sort of drugs did Mr. Hill sell? Heroin. Do you know where Mr. Hill sold drugs? The same areas as Pig, which is Wilcox and Kildare, Pulaski and Van Buren, Polk and Cicero. So you knew both of these gentlemen, Pig and Weezy? Yes, sir. Would you say you're closer with Pig or closer with Weezy? I say closer with Pig. Mr. Harris, if we could get back to July of 2009, were you shot on July 15, 2009? Yes, sir. Where were you when you were shot? I was riding down the street on Calmer. Calmer and what? On the west side, Calmer and Van Buren. In Chicago? Yes, sir. Were you alone or were you with other persons? I was by myself. You were in the car? Yes, sir. What kind of car were you in? A 1998 Chevy van. Can you describe the van? It was green with white stripes. It was sitting up high, had 26-inch rims on it. You were sitting up high? Yes, sir. And what were you doing in the area of Calmer and Van Buren that day? It was like 90 degrees outside, so usually what I do is, when it's real hot, I open up the fire hydrants for the kids to play in the water. So what I was doing was riding around looking for a fire hydrant to open. Did you find any? I had found one, but I couldn't get it to open, so I rode around and tried to find another one, which was the one by the area of Van Buren and Calmer. And what happened when you were driving around the area of Van Buren and Calmer? That's when a car pulled up on the side of me, and they got to shooting in my van, and I was shot in my back. What kind of car pulled up on the side of you? A black Mercury Grand Marquis. How many times were you shot? Once. And you said you were shot in the back? Yes, sir. Did you see the persons in the car? Yes, sir. How many persons were in the car? 2. Did you see the driver? Yes. Did you see the passenger? Yes. Could you tell who was shooting, the driver or the passenger? The passenger. Who was the passenger as far as you could tell? Weezy. And who was the driver as far as you could tell? Pig. And so you were shot in your back and you were alone in your car? Yes, sir. What did you do next? I drove down Calmer and I made a right on Jackson, was putting me in the 4500 block of Jackson, and I saw my friend Howard standing outside, and I asked him to drive me to the hospital because I had just been shot. So you saw a friend? Yes, sir. His name was Howard? Yes, sir. Do you know Howard's last name? No. And you asked Howard to take you to the hospital? Yes. And did he? Yes. What hospital would you go to? Mount Sinai. And did you have to stay in the hospital for some time? Yes. Did you have surgery? Yes. How long were you in the hospital? Approximately 7 to 8 months. How many surgeries did you have? 3. While you were in the hospital, did you talk to the police? Yes. Did you tell them what happened? Yes. Did you tell them who shot you? Yes. Who did you tell them shot you? I told them that Weezy shot me when Pig was driving. Now, I asked you earlier whether you were still friends with Pig, and you said not anymore. Yes. Prior to this, had your and Pig's relationship begun to fracture? Yes. Now, you testified that Pig had a relationship with your sister? Yes. When you eventually got out of the hospital, did your sister ask you to do something? Yes. What did she ask you to do? She asked me not to send her son's father to jail, and she asked for me and Pig to squash whatever beef we supposed to have going on. So your sister asked you not to send the father of her child to jail? Yes. And who was she referring to when your sister said the father of her child? Pig. So what did you do? I talked to Pig. Weezy had got out of jail. I talked to Weezy. They had asked me. I was supposed to drop the charges and not send them to jail and just let bygones be bygones and just get everything over it. Basically like a peace offering. Did you agree to this? Yes. Why did you agree to this? For the same reasons. I didn't want to be beefing with nobody. I didn't want to be having to watch my back or look over my shoulder, plus my nephew. I felt like my nephew needed his father, so I didn't want to send his father to jail. And your nephew is? Pig's son. Pig's son. Thank you. So you said you talked to both Weezy and Pig? Yes. Let's start with Weezy. Based on what your sister asked you to do, did you take back your statements against Weezy? Yes, sir. What did you do? I met up with Weezy and he led me to his lawyer's office, which was downtown, and I went into the lawyer's office and I met up with his lawyer and he showed me a copy of the affidavit and I signed it. So you met with Weezy and Weezy's lawyer? Yes, sir. And they showed you an affidavit? Yes, sir. Did you write that affidavit? No, sir. Did you read the affidavit? Yes. In summary, what did the affidavit say? It basically said that I didn't know who shot me. I was under the influence when I was questioned, and that's about it, to sum it up. And did you sign it? Yes, sir. And were those statements true? No. You did know who shot you? Yes, sir. You also said you had a conversation with Pig after your sister asked you to let bygones be bygones, as you said? Yes. Did you eventually take back your statements against Pig? Yes, sir. How did you do that? I went up to his lawyer's office, met up with, I think it was the lawyer's assistant, and she told me to wait inside a room. I waited inside a room for maybe about 15-20 minutes. She came back with an affidavit that looked similar to the one I signed for Weezy. I read it and I signed it. Did you write that affidavit? No, sir. And this was at the office for Pig's lawyer? Yes, sir. Was Pig present for this? No, sir. Did you read the affidavit before you signed it? Yes. And again, in summary, what did the affidavit say to the best of your recollection? Basically said that I didn't know who shot me and I was under the influence when I was questioned in the hospital, and that's what sums it up. And was that true? No, sir. To be clear, the police interviewed you in the hospital? Yes. And you were on medication? No. No? No. And you told the police who shot you when you were in the hospital? Yes. So this case that we're talking about, where you were the victim, did the case ever go to trial? Yes. Do you recall when it went to trial? January of 2013. And you were the victim in the trial, correct? Yes, sir. Who were the defendants? Pig and Weezy. And were they on trial for shooting you? Yes, sir. So we'll come back to the trial in a little bit, Mr. Harris, but first I want to talk about an evening in November of 2012. Okay. So would that have been after you were shot? Yes, sir. Again, when were you shot? 2009. And would this evening in 2012 be before the trial that Pig and Weezy had for shooting you? Yes. Do you recall an evening when you were with Mr. Span and other persons? Yes. Do you know a person named Cello? Yes. How do you know Cello? He's a member of the Gangster Disciples. He grew up with us, and he's from the same area as us. When you say grew up with us, who are you referring to? Me and other members of the Gangster Disciples. How long have you known Cello? Approximately 16 to 20 years. And you said Cello was a gangster disciple? Yes, sir. Did you know Cello to hang out with other gangs? Yes, sir. What other gangs did Cello spend time with? The Four Corner Hustlers. Any particular Four Corner Hustlers you know? Yes, sir. Which ones? The Syndicate Fours, Brother Man, Main Man. So you knew Cello to hang out with Bro Man and Main Man? Excuse me, Your Honor. If I could have the podium, Government Exhibit 108, which is already in evidence. Well, you're just going to have to wait until Emily is back. I can do it the old-fashioned way, Your Honor. Well, I used to be able to do that too, but not now. Not a problem. Could I have the ELMO, Your Honor? You ask that like maybe I can't do that. I think I did it. I apologize, Your Honor. All right, go ahead. Excuse me. Mr. Harris, I've put up on the ELMO what's marked as Government Exhibit 108. It's already in evidence. Do you see that? Yes, sir. And do you recognize that person? Yes, sir. And who is that? Cello. The same Cello we've been talking about? Yes, sir. Do you know Cello to have a brother? Yes, sir. Do you know his brother's name? We called him Lil Cello. And do you know if Lil Cello was associated with a gang? Yes, sir. Which gang? The Gangster Disciples. Just like his brother Cello? Yes, sir. I'm showing you what's marked as Government Exhibit 107, which is already in evidence. Do you recognize that person? Yes, sir. Who is that? That's Lil Cello. Now, you said Lil Cello was a GD, correct? Yes, sir. Did you know Lil Cello to associate with other gangs? Yes, sir. And other gang members? Yes, sir. What other gangs do you know Lil Cello to associate with? The Syndicate Four Corner Hustlers. Any particular gang members you know Lil Cello associated with? Yes, sir. Which gang members? Brother Man, Lil Boss, and other members of the Four Corner Hustler gang. So you knew both Cello and Lil Cello to be gangster disciples? Yes, sir. Like yourself? Yes, sir. And you knew both of them to associate with Mr. Span and Four Corner Hustlers? Yes, sir.